Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, today's guest I met about 10 or 11 years ago at a conference, and I never forgot her. Her name is Cyd Notter, and today she is not only going to be making an amazing, delicious recipe in the Instant Pot, a pineapple chili, but she's going to talk to us about why it is so hard to change. Please welcome back to the show, Cyd Notter. And Cyd, I did never forget you.
Hello, Chef AJ. Thanks for having me on today. And speaking of meeting you 11 years ago, guess what I found in my photos the other day? This picture of us from 2011. And you had on your Got Colin t-shirt. Can you see it?
Wow. And I also had on an extra 50 pounds.
Oh, well, you can't tell it in that picture.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, who's the lady next to us in the picture?
That's my friend Julie. She was with me at the conference. That was back in November of 2011.
I remember. So, yeah, that was the year my book on process came out. That was great.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice.
So what I'd like to do today is go over in my book. In fact, let me show it. My book, The Plan A Diet, Combining Whole Food Plant-Based Nutrition with the Timeless Wisdom of Scripture. There's a chapter in here called The 12 Barriers to Change. And I would just like to run through those real fast before I do the cooking demo. So I'm going to do the presentation on why it's hard to change, then the pineapple chili, and then I have a surprise recipe that I'm not going to make, but I'm going to give you the recipe that goes with the chili, and I probably just blew it. And then I've got a couple jokes to tell you if there's time, because I'm on a new mission, because I think the world is crazy and we need to tell more jokes. So laughter is cheap medicine in my view. So I think we need to tell more jokes.
Yeah, that's great. It was funny that you say that, because last night I was giving a presentation at Rancho La Puerta and somebody said something that reminded me of a joke. I said, hey, do you guys mind if I just tell a joke? And they said no. And you're right. We need more laughter.
Can you tell it here?
Well, I could, but this is your time. I'll tell it another time. It's a joke about bacon. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen, if I may.
Please.
Let me see here. I got to do the portion of screen. This is always like a technology thing. Now you're just seeing you're not seeing my notes or anything, right?
No, that's perfect. You have it perfect.
Okay. Oops. So I'm not on the first slide. So this is called The Biggest Barriers to Change. And these are things that I've seen over the years with my own clients and just having classes. And change is an unavoidable part of life, but just the thought of making changes can really trigger anxiety in some of us. So that's why I wrote about this in my book, because these are the things that can keep us stuck. Even when we want to make change and we know it's the best thing for us to do, sometimes there are barriers that don't allow us to go forward easily. And I just want to point out that this presentation is just a drop in the bucket regarding each barrier. I mean, we could spend hours talking about each one, but this is just a drop in the bucket to see if maybe you recognize yourself with one of these barriers. And if so, you might want to explore it deeper. So the first two barriers deal with ignorance. There's blind ignorance and willful ignorance. And blind ignorance is if someone has truly never been exposed to the message of how diet is affecting their health. And anybody that's here today that watches Chef AJ Live is certainly not going to fall into the category of blind ignorance. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that diet affects your health these days with all the information that's out there. Willful ignorance, on the other hand, is when someone is aware that their food choices matter, but they just don't care about it. They're apathetic, or they have an attitude of indifference. And they'd rather not know about how the health consequences of their poor diet are going to affect them. So apathy is also referred to as the absence of emotions. And sometimes that can be a precursor for depression. So it's really important that we address this topic if we are apathetic about our diet. A few of the underlying reasons for apathy or willful ignorance could be boredom or stress or isolation or low self-worth. So to combat apathy, it's important first to recognize what's causing it and then to take some simple steps to regain your motivation, because motivation combats apathy. And one way to become motivated is to pick one hobby or interest that has the most potential to engage you and get you enthusiastic. Like right now, I'm going to try to learn pickleball. So that's my new interest. So I'm going to set some goals around that, and I'm going to take a few weeks to learn it. And maybe you'd like to learn a new language or skill, or how to play an instrument, or simply get your garage cleaned out. Whatever it is that would motivate you, you have to break that goal into small action steps, and then to commit to move forward every day for at least several weeks. Then once you're doing that, carry that newfound motivation into setting goals for your weight and health issues as well. The third barrier to change is the fear of change, basically, which can really disturb our perceptions. When we're asked to do something that we're unfamiliar with, or to step out of our comfort zone, or when we're asked to consider new ways of shopping and cooking, or when we're asked to face changes to our current routines and habits, all of those things can lead us to fear that can leave us stymied and stuck. We might even fear another failure if we've been unsuccessful with diet change in the past. So do not let a spirit of fear overtake you. Get a handle on those fears by writing them down. And this could really take some soul searching and some time. And then evaluate your fears to see if they're legitimate. Sometimes our fears aren't even based on reality, right? They're based on our perceptions. Ask yourself that if those fears were to come to fruition, would they even somehow pose a danger to you or to someone else? Now, the fourth barrier to change is the avoidance of pain. And this one is very common. And this doesn't relate to physical pain per se, but rather anything that we think is too much of a hassle, right? That's the pain, if we think it's going to be too much of a hassle. So if someone is unwilling to endure the short-term trials and the period of adjustment, which is needed when we change our diet, unfortunately, they'll never see the long-term gain or the benefits. So remember that anything of value has this rhythm: pain first and payoff later. And that's a quote from a book by Dr. Henry Cloud. He wrote a book called Never Go Back, 10 Things I'll Never Do Again. It's a great book. And he devotes an entire chapter to the topic of choosing short-term comfort over long-term benefit. And it's a principle that applies to many areas of life, and it can really keep people stuck. The fifth barrier to change is habits. And most of us are creatures of habit. I know I certainly am, from grocery store purchases and recipes that I choose and exercise routines and so on. But habits become an issue when we're so dependent on them, and we become so dependent on an unhealthy eating pattern that it prevents us from making changes or moving forward. So when habits become too deeply ingrained, then it might be time to examine the importance that you're placing on those habits. Habits in and of themselves can be good, right? There's nothing wrong with being a creature of habit when those habits promote good health. So redirect your energy toward the positive habits and use those to replace the negative ones. Write down what your new habits will look like. For example, instead of Pop-Tarts or sugary cereal for breakfast, you're going to have savory oats or oatmeal with sweetened fruit as you prefer it, or another healthy alternative. When you're running errands, you're going to bring zucchini muffins in the car instead of maybe stopping at the donut shop like you're in the habit of doing. Or for a sweet treat at night, maybe you'll choose homemade raspberry sorbet rather than an ice cream bar or those store-bought cookies that you're in the habit of eating. And when we perform the same actions day after day, the habits develop and they'll soon become second nature. The sixth barrier to change is false perception, which comes into play when people believe that healthy eating is too hard or too expensive or too time consuming or too blah, blah, anything. They always have an excuse. Or they believe that the foods are boring or tasteless, or that plant-based foods lack nutrition. False perception also leads many people to believe that they're eating healthier than they really are, or that they're physically healthier than they really are. So our predispositions and the assumptions we make play a big role in how we perceive reality. So a few ways to overcome false perception is to be open-minded about credible, independent research and be willing to experiment with some new, easy recipes. And also find a community of other plant-based eaters, either locally or online, or preferably both, and hang out there and learn the success that those people are having. Now, the seventh barrier is denial, which is the refusal to acknowledge that you have a food problem or how those food choices are impacting your health. It's pretending that a problem doesn't exist. And I'm not even sure how you'd recognize that you're in denial if denial is one of your barriers, right? But apparently you would not be alone if you are in denial, because a recent Gallup poll shows that Americans are less likely every single year to see themselves as overweight, and they're less likely to want to lose weight. So denial is rampant in our society. Refusing to acknowledge these weight and health issues, though, could be a coping mechanism for some people. Perhaps they'd rather not think about their problems. It causes them too much anxiety or stress, or they don't want to admit things about themselves that they'd rather keep hidden, right? I'm sure some of us can totally relate to that. So if you suspect that you're stuck in denial, though, you might want to seek help to acknowledge your problems and find ways to face the issues that you might be denying. Now, the eighth barrier is called pride or rebellion. And there's a big difference between healthy pride and unhealthy pride or ego. So unhealthy pride is when a person believes that they're superior to other people, or they believe that they'll never get sick, right? That they're above that. And it's difficult for them to admit when they're making unhealthy food choices. Plus, they feel that no one is going to tell them what to eat, right? They're very resistant to any advice. So any constructive feedback about their food choices is either totally dismissed or viewed as a threat. And they try to dominate conversations or shut other people out. And I have even noticed that there are some people that are so prideful and rebellious that they're willing to sabotage the health efforts of other people, especially their family members. So pride is very addictive. It's an addictive pattern that can be difficult to overcome. But the antidote, rather, for pride is to set aside self-focus and develop a posture of humility. And this is going to take some time to do this. But humility allows us to have an accurate opinion of ourselves, and it restrains us from being the center of our own worlds, basically. It allows us to listen graciously to other people and be flexible in our own thought patterns. And again, these are tall orders which require some deep soul searching and some determination and a sincere change of heart. The next three barriers are the biggies, and often these overlap and they can be closely enmeshed. The first one is family and social pressure, and this is something I see a lot, and it has a major influence on your food choices. Many people tell me that their family members are the reason that a healthy diet just won't work in their house because the other family members would never go for it. So when family members or friends are indulging in unhealthy foods, sometimes it can just be easier to join in and eat that bucket of chicken rather than to stick to your healthy program, right? And sometimes people just don't, they just want to avoid the scrutiny. They don't want to be made to feel guilty about eating healthy, which sometimes can happen. So your first line of defense should be to have a frank discussion with your family and assure them that they're not under attack and they won't be forced to eat as you do, but explain to them what's motivating you to eat better and ask for their support. Share exactly how they can help you too. You need to negotiate, like who's going to do the shopping and cooking? Are they willing to store their unhealthy foods out of sight? Are they willing to join in and eat what you're eating once in a while? And remember that you do not need your family's support to change your diet. Yes, things would be so much easier and it would be lovely if you had their support. But I know that you can succeed on your own because I have seen many divided families when it comes to food, and they have figured out how to make this work. And you can do that too. So if you're interested, I have a whole short presentation about this very topic on my YouTube channel. The next big barrier is emotional eating, and that happens when we deal with the stressors of life by turning to food. Emotional eaters, of which I am one, use food to soothe anxiety, stress, sadness, anger, boredom, or in order to delay dealing with something, being like you want to delay dealing with problems. And as an emotional eater myself, that one I can certainly attest to. If there's something I have to do that I don't want to do, whether it be a work project or make a phone call, my head's in the refrigerator looking for food. So I'm quite aware of that. And even happy emotions, by the way, can send us to turn to food, especially if we're trying to reward ourselves for doing something right or for reaching some goal. So develop a plan of attack by knowing your weak spots. Know which emotions are going to send you to the kitchen or the drive-up window, and develop an alternative coping method that does not involve food. So if you eat out of boredom, devise a plan of action where you're going to stay out of the kitchen, or you're going to organize a closet, or take up a hobby, or go for a walk, or do a puzzle, or read a book, or have a cup of tea, just whatever would fit in with what you want to do, but stay out of the kitchen. If you eat when you're lonely, then arrange to visit a friend or meet them somewhere for a walk or call somebody. Again, it's all in the pre-planning. If you eat when you're anxious, give yourself permission to just stop and sit down for a few minutes before you surrender to a knee-jerk response in the kitchen. And that is something I do too when I'm anxious. I tend to want to eat a lot. Take deep breaths and refocus and recognize what's happening. Press the pause button and take a time out. And instead of trying to suppress your emotions at that time, allow those emotions to be front and center. Like, just, yay, I'm feeling really anxious right now. So, deal with that rather than trying to suppress that emotion with food. And remember that this too shall pass, right? That emotion is going to subside. And remind yourself that these emotional cravings cannot be filled with food. Food will not fill that craving for very long. And it will, for the long run, just make you probably feel worse if you keep giving into it. Food addiction is the next big barrier, which results when we've lost control over the ability to stop eating certain foods, especially those highly palatable ones that trigger the release of dopamine in our brain's pleasure center. Like sugar, chocolate, cheese, meats, salts, and fats, they all fall into this category. Or if you obsess about certain foods or you crave them to the point where you'll go out of your way to get them, or if you experience withdrawal when you don't have those foods, then you might have a food addiction. And Chef AJ just recently devoted an entire week to this very topic. So the best way to deal with food addiction is to decontaminate your environments by removing the addictive foods. I mean, it's got to be total abstinence, because if you're trying to eat just one Oreo a day or one piece of string cheese or a handful of potato chips or one spoon of ice cream, that's just going to continue to drip feed the addiction until it rears its ugly head and takes back over. So again, this comes into knowing your trigger points and planning ahead. For example, if you're headed to a family gathering, bring a healthy casserole or a crock pot of soup or a plant-based dessert. If the office brings in glazed donuts on Wednesday morning, then you bring your healthy alternative or you avoid the break room altogether. If you have to set a deadline by which all the unhealthy foods are going to be out of the house, then do that, so you can have healthy alternatives in place. Again, this is where the planning comes in. We want to crowd out those addictive foods really quickly and replace them with healthy options. And again, if you live with people who are still going to have junk food in the house, go back to that barrier on family pressure and find ways to negotiate those issues. Now, the 12th barrier is actually a spiritual barrier. And there is a spiritual attack is a barrier that can be there when we're trying to make changes. And that is laid out in my book. It's the topic of spiritual warfare. So for those of you who are interested in that, you could read about that more in my book. Okay, now there's one more thing, actually the 13th thing called the barrier combo pack. So now that we've covered some of the biggest barriers, there's one more thing that is the barrier combo pack, and that is because human behavior is so complex that many of these barriers actually overlap or intertwine in some way. For example, seeking comfort foods that can result from emotional eating, food addiction, or habit. Having a negative view of healthy foods could stem from false perception or denial or pride. Complacency about making changes could result from fear of change or avoidance of pain or willful ignorance, which is apathy. That's why reading all the helpful tips can be useful to more than one barrier. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this presentation only scratches the surface and offers tiny bits of advice. But the goal is simply to make you aware of these things. And if you perhaps recognize yourself struggling with one of these areas or barriers, then taking a deeper dive or seeking help might be in order. Okay, this is the last slide here, but maybe one of the most important ones because it's the thing that stood out to me as I wrote about these barriers in my book. And that is when it comes to all the helpful tips and solutions, the number of key words that reflect the need for awareness and thought. Words like learn, determine, examine, recognize, know, choose, decide. All of those words indicate that our minds must be fully engaged if we intend to overcome the mental and physical roadblocks that can keep us stuck. Mindfulness is the key, as with most things. And again, the battle and the answers often lie directly between our ears. And so remember that everything you need to succeed with a healthy diet is already inside you. So develop your game plan and you'll be able to kick those barriers to the curb. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now. So that was my quick presentation before we make the chili.
That was great. There were a lot of practical tips for people. And I love that you talked about abstinence because a lot of people think that they can, have those foods around and be successful. And I don't see a lot of people that can.
No, it's so hard, right? You're just drip feeding that addiction and it's going to rear its ugly head, like I said, and you can't fight it, right? Like we say, you wouldn't advise an alcoholic to have one beer a week or you just can't do it. You have to totally abstain.
I agree. That's one of the subjects that's been debated a lot by many of the experts said. That's why I've always believed if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And it's not a matter of if you will eat it, only when. But it seems like it's so hard for people to negotiate that clean environment with their loved ones.
Yeah. And having said that, though, there are people that do gradual transitions. But the thing is, they have to keep moving forward. You can't make small changes. I just did a blog on this. People who make small changes and they expect big results. That does not happen.
Yeah, that's like people that do like a C or B diet and want the A result. So yeah, I agree with you. But it just do you after now that you've been doing this for a while, working with people, do you ever hear this? It's so hard.
All the time. Yeah, it's so hard. Well, you know what? Diabetes is hard, right? Cancer is hard. This changing your diet is a drop in the bucket compared to dealing with disease, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing is once people do it, it's not hard anymore. It is hard at first, but if it stayed hard, I couldn't be a vegan for 45 years.
Right. Anything that's worth value has a learning curve, right? It's the learning curve. There could be some challenges with the learning curve, no doubt. But once you're over that hump, it's second nature, right? So don't think of it as hard. Think of it as different, right? Yeah, you're just going to buy different foods and shop and cook differently. That's it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, so you're using one of my favorite kitchen tools today, the Instant Pot. Now that's interesting because Instant Pot, in my opinion, or a pressure cooker, is what makes things less hard, at least when it comes to food preparation.
Right. I agree. I'm going to move my camera back now so you can see my island here. Oops. Oh, let's see how this does. Does this work? Can you see me okay? My head's not chopped off or anything?
I can see you perfectly.
Okay, all right. Then I'm going to get on with this. Is one of our favorite recipes, Instant Pot pineapple chili. Now, to save time, I have already sauteed one red pepper chopped up and one onion chopped up. So I sauteed that for a few minutes on the saute setting. And I don't know, I'm sure all Instant Pots have a porridge setting, right? I'm afraid to use that because I think some bears are going to show up. All right, this recipe is in the show notes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
can also be found.
Cyd, I did put it in the show notes, but people have to understand if they're watching from Facebook and Twitter, they don't see show notes. So please hop on over to YouTube and you can see the recipe in its entirety. And I'm curious, Cyd, did you saute in the Instant Pot itself?
I did. So there's a saute feature on your Instant Pot, and it heats up really fast. Just a little water to prevent sticking is all that I used. Now, let's get on to the other ingredients. I'm going to add all the other ingredients except for the beans. So here we have 3 cups of sweet potatoes cut into bite-sized chunks. And to give you an idea, I don't leave big chunks in there because I want, number one, the Instant Pot to cook faster, and number two, I like bite-sized things rather than big chunks. So I've got 3 cups of sweet potatoes, 2 chopped green apples, 1 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. By the way, does anybody know what fashion faux pas I'm creating today? I don't know if you can see what I'm wearing, but I'm creating a fashion faux pas today. Do you know what it is?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm wearing white after Labor Day. Remember growing up, that was a big thing. You know, you did not wear white after Labor Day. But it's no longer a rule, so I can wear white. But when I put these white pants on, this tomato sauce wants to automatically jump onto my pants. So I have to be very careful. Anytime I wear white, that happens. So I have added 1 can of tomato sauce, 1 can of diced tomatoes with either jalapenos or green chilies. I use petite diced. That's my preference for that. I have got 1 20-ounce can of pineapple chunks with the pineapple juice. This recipe has a little zing to it, and I don't like things really hot, but the zing level in this is tolerable for me and delicious. If it was more zingy, you could buy just regular petite diced tomatoes without the extra chilies added. But I'm kind of a sissy when it comes to heat, and this is just right for me. So a can of more green chilies, a 1/2 cup of veggie broth. Recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of either date paste or date syrup. So I'm going to use, I've made it with both. They're both really good. So I'm going to use 4 tablespoons of date paste today. And for spices here, I've got cumin, oregano, chili powder, and cinnamon. Just that right there, it tells you how good it is. Anything with those spices combined, especially if you're roasting sweet potatoes, that's a really good spice combo for that as well. Now I have 3 cans of beans here too, but I'm not adding those until this cooks. So give everything a really good stir. Let me go through my notes, make sure I put everything in there. The sweet potatoes, the apples, sauce, tomatoes, pineapple, chilies, broth, date paste. It's easy.
Yeah, that sounds so good. I never would think about cinnamon and chili, but I bet it's delicious with the pineapple.
It is.
And there's a question from Joe. Did you peel your apples, Cyd?
I did. Yep. And the recipe says 2 cups of green apple, but I just use 2 green apples. It's, you know, that equals about 2 cups. You don't have to be real picky about that. So now, high pressure for 5 minutes. Then, when this is done, I'm going to let it naturally release for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to manually release it after that. Make sure it's on your valve is sealed, you know, before it starts warming up. And I don't know if we're going to have time for all of that, so I went ahead and made a batch ahead of time. But anyway, after the 5 minutes, okay, so after it releases naturally for 5 minutes, and then you do a quick release. Then you stir in the beans at that point. You know, take the lid off, stir in the beans, and then you're all set. Top it with some green onion. This is a finished product here. Yummy. Very good. I don't know. I hope you can see this close enough in the bowl here. So yeah, it's one of our favorite things. So when I have chili, I want cornbread. So this was the surprise. These are no flour corn muffins that I've discovered how to make. And if you want that recipe, that would be on my website. Wasn't planning to do that for today's show, but I went ahead and did it as an experiment, and they turned out really good. So
well, you still have time if you want to make some. They sound fabulous. What do you use instead of flour? Maybe whole oats?
Yeah, it's got cornmeal and quick oats, almond milk, applesauce, some creamed corn, which makes these very moist inside. These have been in the fridge. But if you like cornbread as a side dish with your chili, the no flour corn muffins would be a great thing to try.
Those sound divine.
Yeah.
Have you ever frozen your pineapple chili? Because does pineapple freeze well in general?
It does. I'll show you. So I have one of those sealer bags, you know, it sucks the air out. You put it in a seal bag and suck the air out of the bag. So this is pineapple chili that I made yesterday, and it freezes pretty well. I guess with the Ninja, we're freezing pineapple, right? Because we're making pineapple Dole Whip.
Yeah, you know, you're right. That's true. That's true. You're absolutely right. I just never think of pineapple. Yeah, and you buy frozen pineapple, so why wouldn't it? My bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plants to the rescue say those corn muffins look so yummy.
They are. Can you see my Instant Pot?
I can see it.
Okay. All right. So anyway, that is the recipe for pineapple chili.
Yeah. So Cyd, Amber says, who makes vegan cream corn? Is that something you purchase in a can, or did you make it yourself?
There's a good recipe for it. I do have a recipe for creamed corn, Chef AJ. Do you have one?
I don't. I mean, I would just probably cream some corn with some milk. I mean, some plant milk, you know?
Yeah. Well, ShaneandSimple.com, he has a good recipe, or you can find compliant creamed corn out there. There's no dairy in creamed corn. A lot of people think creamed corn has dairy in it. It does not.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really good. Yeah, chilies are, I mean, the weather is finally getting a little bit cooler, so we're back to soups and stews and chilies.
Oh, I can't wait for that. It's really chilly today here in Illinois. It's in the 60s. Ooh. So, so once this is done cooking, the beans go in. By the way, I've got 3 cans of beans here. I chose a can of black, a can of kidney beans, and a can of pinto. But you can do whatever combo you want. This is just the one I always use.
Latanya saying, I never thought of apple and chili, and she can't wait to make this. Yeah, that's very clever.
Yeah, so yummy too. It's a good combo because you've got the tart green apples, the pineapple. It's like a sweet and tangy all together. Super good. One of our favorite things. So I wanted to give a shout out today too for PBNSG. Are you familiar? You're right. Plant-based nutrition.
Of course, I've had a bunch of them on the show. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm doing a monthly inflammation support group meeting for them now. So if anybody is a member there, the first Tuesday night of every month, we do a support group for the topic of inflammation. Wanted to put a shout out there, so if you could let everybody know about that. So in fact, Angela Fischetti, I'm not sure if she's still watching today. She was my guest in July. Angela was my guest that came on to show us how to do some exercises to help with inflammation. That was really great.
That's great. Well, Angela, I believe, is still watching, and she will be my guest on Saturday doing a routine for osteoporosis for the lower body.
Awesome. Very good.
It's great how all the community knows each other. You don't see this as the guest, but as the host, I watch the chat and try to monitor the best I can with the help of two wonderful moderators, Jesse and Susanna. But the way that people have gotten to know each other, the community we've created through the Zoomunity in 2.5 years, and it's almost like they take roll if somebody's missing. It's really quite sweet.
Yes, I've noticed that too. That there's a group. It's like going to Cheers, right? Everybody knows your name.
Exactly. Janet's saying that she loves your sweet potato peanut stew recipe.
Ah, yeah, another good one.
That's
I love fall for that reason. Soups, and fall's my favorite time of year. Just for soups
I like
and
fall
stews.
too. Yeah. I've always liked fall and spring. Renee says, Cyd, can you get cream corn that doesn't have salt and sugar? I don't know what the cans say, but.
I don't have the can here. I don't know. You can make your own from the Shane and Simple website if you'd like to do that. Then you can control what's going in there. That I don't know off the top of my head.
Nice.
So sorry.
How many minutes on the Instant Pot does it take?
Oh, it takes 5, and it's not even up to pressure yet. So would you like me?
No, that's great. No, 5 is great. And the thing what's so great about when you use already cooked beans is it takes a lot less time because like you say, you can just add them. Is there a reason you're adding them afterwards instead of putting them in now?
Yeah, they just could get a little too mushy in my opinion. I like the beans to be a little bit firmer. Actually, I've never tried to put the beans in. I just thought they might not, that they would get a little too mushy.
Got it. Andrea says Jiffy has a vegetarian version of their cornbread and there's a vegan recipe on the box with substitutions. Pretty sure it's oil free. I added a can of cream corn for moisture. Very good. Clever idea. Yeah. Kelly, if you can't see her website link, it's because you're watching on Facebook, which is why I recommend please go to YouTube, because that's where all the recipes and all the links are. It's called the show notes, but unfortunately I do stream it to other social media platforms for convenience, but you really can't see the chat or anything there. So please go to YouTube and you'll see everything you're requesting. Such an easy, awesome recipe. One of the live viewers is saying.
It is very, very simple. Someone brought it to a potluck years ago, and then I tweaked it and made it Instant Pot. So we could make it in the Instant Pot. And I tweaked it a little bit. They had other ingredients in it. And I put date paste, as a sweetener rather than sugar and all of that. So very, very good. Plus, it's good for the carnivores. The carnivores love this too. So if you're looking for something for dinner, for company or other people to give away as a gift, this would be a great present.
Do you ever like to serve your chili over grain? I personally like to have it over millet or rice. I like it as hearty as can be, even over Yukon Gold potatoes sometimes. Yeah,
that's one of my favorite ways is over a potato. But this one I just eat plain.
Oh, where's the protein? It's funny. Hopefully the person that asked isn't watching, but I'm here at Rancho La Puerta this week, and I give lectures and teach hands-on cooking. And there's a list of the recipes we're making, and so people are saying, "Well, where's the protein?" And it's like they just don't understand that you can have a meal without animal products, and it still has plenty of protein.
Yeah. That'll never go away, it seems, will it?
It's been 45 years of hearing that. It's like, I'm just wanting to pull my hair out. And so, of course, I'm not going to be rude. And I said, well, look at the menu. I said, there's beans. Beans have plenty of protein. And there's quinoa, it has plenty of protein, and greens, but people just really still believe that if it's not from an animal, it doesn't have protein.
Right. I'd say that's the barrier of false perception. No, that's willful ignorance, right? A lot of people don't want to know. They're happy just eating animal products for protein because that's all they want to do. I always say, where do you get your butyrate? Because butyrate is produced from eating fiber, and people that are not eating plants are not getting any fiber, right?
Right. So, that's what I say. Where do you get your fiber? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, I have a t-shirt. I think I might have got it from PCRM. It says fiber is the new protein.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense for us, but okay, so the general population out there though, did you see that Rip Esselstyn recently interviewed Howie Jacobson, was it, about his new book, You Can Change Anybody? Did you happen to see that podcast?
Well, no, but I did have Howie on my show, and I read his book. Wasn't it called You Can Change Other People?
I think so. And I took notes during that, and he had some great advice about getting other people to maybe be more willing to change. But if they say no, if they put up, I don't want to hear it. You really can't force it on people, right? We all want our friends and loved ones to eat healthier because we watch them suffering with preventable issues. But
what do you do for exercise these days, Cyd?
I mix it up. I bought a trampoline recently, a rebounder. I do elliptical, I do step aerobics, I do free weights. I go for walk runs. I have to mix it up. I'm easily bored. But I remember Dr. Lim saying on your show one time to try to get 180 minutes, right, of exercise every week. So I do 4 45-minute sessions a week or 3 one-hour sessions, depending on the schedule for the week. That's the minimum.
Yep. Well, you've been on the show before, but there's always new viewers that may not know the answer to the ever popular question on Chef AJ Live. What does Cyd eat in a day?
Well, for breakfast, I usually have a grain. You know, I am in the oatmeal crowd, but sometimes I will have, we make these really delicious pancakes. You know, sometimes I'll have that. We don't eat right away when we get up. You know, it's usually a little later in the day. Then I have a meal around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and that'll be leftovers from the night before. I'll tell you what I made this week. So my husband is kind of choosy, let's just say that. He doesn't like to eat the same thing over and over. So I have to have a big variety of things in the fridge. So I'll choose one Mexican dish, one Italian dish, an Asian dish, a burger, you know, and so I make, that's how I choose my weekly menu around that. So this week we made roasted veggie pasta. I made a Mexican quinoa salad. And I know we're going to have pineapple chili because I made 2 batches, you know, a batch to show you and a batch here. And sometimes we have lasagna or we have stir fries, but I have to mix it up. We don't eat the same thing a lot over and over because my hubby doesn't care for that.
Oh, so he likes variety. What are you going to do with the extra chili you made? Freeze some, give some to a neighbor?
Yep. I'm giving some to some friends who are out of town right now, and their dog is here with us. Zoe, the bulldog, is here. They're going to get a big batch, and I'm going to freeze the rest. Well, we're going to be traveling soon, and I'm going to take some of this with me on the trip.
Wow. When you travel, do you bring your Instant Pot?
I don't, because there's an Instant Pot where we're going. But we do take a big cooler on rolling. When we go to a different place where I don't have access to my own stuff, we will pack one of those rolling coolers on wheels as luggage. I mean, we load it up with blue ice and all of our Tupperware things full of food, and you can check it for free. So sometimes my hubby goes to Puerto Rico for work, and I'll go with him, and we have to check this big luggage, this big cooler as a piece of luggage. But it can be done, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, is it a big hassle doing that? Yeah, it is, but it's well worth it if you want to stick to a healthy eating plan.
Yeah, I mean, as long as that ice chip is frozen solid, you can get it through TSA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, here's a question from Tammy. She is actually allergic to pineapple. Any substitutions or exchanges you can recommend?
I never thought of that. I don't know. Do you have any ideas there, Chef AJ?
No.
What another citrus?
Gosh, I mean, pineapple has such a unique flavor. I mean, there's other tropical fruits like papaya and mango, but what about mango?
I don't know.
Mango habanero? I don't know. You know, maybe just leave it out. I mean, you know.
That's what I would do. Just leave it out at first and see if it makes a delicious chili without it, perhaps, because you've still got the apple in there and the cinnamon and the spices.
Yep. Christy says, Cyd is so enjoyable to watch. I hope she tells a joke.
You want to hear a joke?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, did you know that icy people think that the word icy is one of the easiest words to spell. And the more I think about it, I see why. I see why, icy.
Okay, that's more like a pun than a joke.
Yeah, okay.
But so Jessie says, how did Cyd decide to write a book and start her wonderful website?
Well, I wrote the book. I started back in 2013 when I was watching all the people around me suffering with preventable illness. And it was laid on my heart that I needed to write a book that combined whole food, plant-based eating with the timeless wisdom of scripture. For example, scripture says, don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Isn't that what we do with food? So I took some principles from scripture, wove them together with plant-based eating, and you'd be surprised at how the two subjects correlate. So I started the book in 2013 and it released in 2019. And I've been teaching this way for over 25 years though, right? So I've been doing this a long time.
Right. Question from Miriam. Do you find that you saved money on groceries after you went vegan, or do you find you're paying about the same?
I'm saving money because I'm far more focused on what I'm going to make, what I need to buy. And beans and rice are a lot cheaper than dairy and meat, in my opinion, right? I haven't priced those things recently. I don't know, but I've been eating this way for so long. I agree with Dr. Hans Deal. He says that your food bill is always going to be lower when you're eating a plant-based diet.
And your medical bills will be lower as well.
Yeah, and I even found a study in my book, I think I referenced it, where they took gram for gram, like plant-based eating versus animal-based eating. And it's far cheaper when you're actually weighing the food that we eat, right? We eat 3 to 5 pounds of food every single day. So when you think about the cost of that 3 to 5 pounds of food, it's far cheaper to eat plant-based.
Yeah, rice and beans. You've started a series of bad puns in the chat, just so you know.
Oh, no.
But here's a good one. Here's a good one from Karen. How do you know if someone's vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, here's a sad story. So last week, my great uncle died simply because we didn't know his blood type. And he was a trooper, though, right up until the end. He kept yelling, "Be positive." Okay,
Oh
so that's a joke. I know.
Oh my God. You know, I need one of those hooks that they used in vaudeville. Okay.
Oh.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
If you're ever attacked by a group of clowns, go for the juggler.
Oh my God.
I know.
Gross.
Laughter, right?
No.
Laughter is cheap medicine.
They're so bad, they're good, you know?
Let's see, what was another one I just heard? Oh, it looked like it was going to rain the other day. So I went to my phone and I said, Siri, surely it's not going to rain today, is it? And she said, yes, it is going to rain. And please don't call me Shirley. And that's when I realized my phone was in airplane mode. Because if you haven't seen the movie Airplane.
I know, I get it. I remember that exactly from I love that actor, Leslie Nielsen. He was wonderful.
Yeah. Another good joke I just heard was, oh, did you know that a cement mixer and a prison bus just crashed on the highway? So the authorities are advising us to look out for hardened criminals.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you call a diminutive psychic who's wanted and on the loose? A small, medium, at large. Oh my God. We got to stop. Yeah. We got to stop. People are gonna I'm going to start getting thumbs down. So here's a comment. I always love when Cyd is on. She's always so gracious and has such a sweet spirit. If I could afford the $20 a month, I'd join the PBNSG inflammation group. Do they ever give scholarships for hardship, Cyd?
I don't know about scholarships, but they do have 30% off right now. I noticed I got an email today that the membership is 30% off, if that helps at all. Plus, they do have a lot of free events too every month. just the support groups you would have to be a member for. But
yeah. Charlie's saying the Instant Pot isn't so instant. And I understand his point. It really, Charlie, the 5 minutes isn't, people think that it takes 5 minutes from the minute you put the ingredients in. It's the time is how many minutes it takes when it comes up to pressure. And if her ingredients were cold or even at room temperature, it's going to take a little while to get to, I believe it's 249 degrees when it seals the pressure. So how many more, has it come up to pressure yet?
I don't think it's even come up to pressure yet, Chef AJ. It just says on. So I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
I don't know any way around that. It's just that when it does come up to pressure, cooks. When it turns off, you let it sit 5 minutes, then you do a manual release, and then you stir in your 3 cans of beans. So
yeah, what I do sometimes if I need, like if I'm doing a cooking demo, I need it to go quicker. I'll sometimes just heat up whatever the ingredients are, or especially if one of the ingredients is water, I'll just use boiling water and then it seems to come up to pressure sooner.
That's a great tip. I never thought of that.
Yeah, Lori's saying, watch out for that Jiffy box. It has wheat flour, degerminated yellow cornmeal, sugar, vegetable shortening, palm oil, soybean oil. So yeah, not healthy ingredients. Thanks for looking that up, Lori. Oh, here's a question from Jesse. What kind of column did you write when you were writing for the newspaper?
It was called the Nutrition Coach, and I either took questions, readers would email me questions, and I would, do a Q&A, or I would just write a topic on fatty liver or some other health issue, or I would write on the topic of a food like flaxseed but it would vary. I would either submit an article. I was limited to 700 to 750 words. 700 to 750 words was the column length. So it was usually a Q&A though. Someone would write in and I would answer their question.
Oh, nice.
I enjoyed that.
Like Ask Cyd.
Yeah.
Is Cyd your real name or is it short for something?
It's short. My legal given name is Cynthia. Nobody ever calls me that. Then growing up, it was Cindy, of course. And then I would say 30 plus years ago, someone named me Sid Vicious at work. Remember when Sid Vicious was a rock group? And that just kind of stuck. People were calling me, what's even like the Sex Pistols? I don't know, something. I can't even remember what it was. But anyway, that term stuck. And so everybody at work was just calling me Cyd. And after that, everybody was calling me Cyd. And now when somebody says, hi, Cindy, I know they're from my childhood or my family, because my family doesn't call me Cyd to this day, but the rest of the world does.
So there's lard in the Jiffy mix. Thanks for undercovering that. And Gina's saying you should put all your columns into a book. Oh,
yeah, that'd be something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, on my website is my blog, and a lot of the Q&As are in my blogs as well. So that's
and Colleen says, if you're already belong to PBNSG, can you renew at a discount?
That I don't know, but you could go to connect@pbnsg.org and get the answer. They would be able to tell you that.
Okay, great. Oh, I think I heard the beep, which means it's going to be 5 minutes.
Yep. But we've only got 3, so.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean, you already showed what it looked like, so I think that's. I mean, do you guys want to hang out and just to see her open it? Because it can take several minutes sometimes for the pressure to be released.
And here's the finished product once again. See here. I think you can see it okay. I put some green onions on there. You could top it with cilantro, but it's already got a kick to it. So I'm not sure you want to do that. Try it before you add any more heat to it.
Yeah, scallions are great on chili.
Yeah. So Chef AJ, have you heard of Murphy's Law, right? Where anything that can go wrong will go wrong? But
absolutely.
Have you heard of Cole's Law?
No. Oh, coleslaw.
Yeah.
I've heard of, oh my God.
It's basically chopped cabbage with a creamy dressing.
Okay. Are you taking a pun class these days?
No, I'm on a goal to laugh more. That's all.
No, I think it's great. Yeah. I do. Even a pun is good. So Jiffy mix. There is no Jiffy mix in her corn muffin recipe. Correct.
No.
Are you from, Catherine says, are you originally from Wisconsin? She loves your accent.
No, I'm from Illinois. I'm a full Italian living in that grew up in Illinois. But no, I didn't. Does Wisconsin have an accent? They have kind of a Canadian, or I don't know.
You know the state song of Illinois?
No.
Oh boy, I grew up in Illinois. I can't believe it. You don't know that, every state has its own song, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always afraid to sing because I get a copyright strike, but real quick, by thy rivers overflowing, Illinois, Illinois, by thy prairies gently flowing, Illinois, Illinois. You never heard that song?
No.
Wow, we had to learn it in school. I grew up in Illinois, and that was like the song, man. I like the California state song a lot better, But anyway, well, you'll have to Google that song. Yeah, they actually, when we were kids, like we made words to it that were like, instead of saying by thy rivers over gently flowing, we would say by thy rivers overflowing and by thy prairies overgrowing. Like we would kind of change the words to make it kind of snarky. So, yeah. An Illinois state song joke. I don't know a song joke, Jerry. I know a lot of jokes, but hey, you can see all my stand-up comedy right here on this channel, including one of my 5 performances on the Tonight Show. So, yep. Yeah. I grew up in Illinois, but Joe never had to learn that song. Well, I don't know. Maybe the school I went to was more patriotic or something.
I remember the brownie song, right? I have something in my pocket. It belongs across my face. You remember that one?
No, not at all.
Well,
you mean like a brownie, like a Girl Scout brownie?
Yeah. A pre-Girl Scout, we're brownies. I have something, I'm sure your audience knows, I have something in my pocket. It belongs across my face. I keep it very close at hand in a most peculiar place. I can't sing. I'm sure you wouldn't guess it if you guessed a long while, so I'll take it out and put it on. It's my great big brownie smile.
Never heard it.
Okay.
There's a game, if any of you have Alexa, do you ever play? There's a game called Song Quiz that I love to play.
No, but if it's a game, I'm in because I love to play games.
Do you play Wordle?
No, I don't play that yet. But remember at that conference, Chef AJ, you did a Jeopardy game.
Yeah, that was fun.
I was one of the.
Yeah. Did that for Rip Esselson's conference and for True North as well. Yep. I love doing Jeopardy. I play that every day with Alexa. Keep my brain sharp.
I mean, you invented it, right? You brought the game. You were the host of the game.
Yep. I was and put all the clues up. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love to play games.
Diane says she likes the Green Acres song, and we rewrote the words for Dr. Alan Goldhammer. So, yeah, everybody's looking up their state song now. So, are you going to let you're going to release the pressure manually, right? You don't need to let it come down to pressure naturally.
I don't need to let it come down in this case. Normally, I would wait 5 minutes, but it's only got 1 more minute left, so I could release it. If you want to hang around, it's up to you. I don't care either way.
Either way.
Okay. Totally up to you.
Absolutely. What did the girl strawberry say to the boy strawberry? If you weren't so fresh last night, we wouldn't be in this jam. Very cute, Bridget. Okay. That's very cute. Hey, I just heard the beep.
Yeah. Yep, here we go. I've got to get one of those dinosaur head things that you put on here and it diverts the steam. Have you ever seen them? They look like a little dragon head.
Yeah, well, it can be a dinosaur head. It can be a human head. They're called diverters. I love them because then the air goes, or the steam goes left and right instead of up and hit.
Right. Yep. So we are done with this in just a second.
You could just put the towel over it when you release it.
Is that what you do?
Well, if you don't have a diverter, just click the little thing and put the towel over it.
Well, I've got it. I like to make smoke signals.
Okay.
I'm afraid it would the towel would burn. No, the towel won't burn.
Cyd, it won't burn. It's only 249 degrees, I promise. And while you're letting the pressure out, you can answer Mary's question. What is PBNSG about?
It stands for Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. And it's a non-for-profit group that helps anybody on their plant-based journey, no matter where they are, if you're just starting out or if you're a seasoned veteran. They have big name speakers come on. They have support groups, like the one I lead is on inflammation, but they have support groups on diabetes, heart disease, cooking classes. There's a lot of chefs that come on and do cooking demos. Basically a support group for anybody that's on this journey.
Nice.
Wow.
Are you afraid to just put the towel over it and let it release?
Well, I did. I did set it there.
Yeah, don't be scared. It works. Just a folded towel, right? Yeah. So I mean, when I don't have a diverter, I just release the pressure and put a towel over it, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to get a bowl so that when we dish this up,
yeah. We're going to announce the winner of the air fryer soon. We kind of want to make it special and maybe have the winner do an unboxing the way that Matthew did when he won the Nutramilk, or at least get them on live to say it. But it was, we had 3 people monitoring the chat, and we have a printout of the chat. It was the person that said the answer correctly first, and we have timestamps for everybody's answer. So just so you know. You graduated from the outskirts of Chicago. I didn't go to high school in Chicago, Janet. I went in Van Nuys to U.S. Grant High School, Ulysses S. Grant.
what part of Illinois were you from, Chef AJ? Did you?
The south, just like Jim Croce, the south side of Chicago.
Oh.
Yep.
Well,
but I only lived there till I was 11, till 1971. So
okay.
I've been gone for 51 years.
Wow. So my hubby grew up on the south side of Chicago as well. He went to Bogan High School. Does that ring a bell?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
My brothers and sisters who were much older went to South Shore High School, I believe.
Okay. Small world.
You remember Marshall Fields?
I do.
Best store ever.
Yeah. The Frango mints. In fact, you created a Frango mint dessert, didn't you?
That's right. But that was my favorite candy growing up, and unfortunately, it's not vegan. Well, it has a lot of sugar, but that was the best mint you could ever imagine. Much better than Andes or any other mint you'd ever try.
Yeah, one day I had 2 girlfriends come over, and we made your German chocolate cake. Like one of us brought the cake, one of us brought the filling, and one of us brought the frosting. So
that's a great way to do that's really very efficient. That's a very clever way. You could actually do like assembly line that way, and you can do more than one. Sort of like those people that have those jar parties in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Can I give my thoughts? Yeah, and Mary, I've given my thoughts on Ninja Creamy versus bananas on quite a few videos on YouTube, but it's like night and day. It's like what's better to use, like a hand lawnmower or an electric lawnmower. The Yonanas is a very affordable machine, but you get what you pay for, and you cannot make large amounts in it. But the main thing about the Yonanas is it's not scoopable. It's soft serve. And with the Ninja Creamy, if you don't finish your pint, you just put it back in the freezer and you can respin it. So I gave my Yonanas away. It you had to defrost it. It didn't work for me. So I'm loving the Ninja Creamy because it's the easiest and the most realistic to ice cream because of the scoopability, as I call it, and the ability to respin, which you can't do with any other machine. And so I prefer that texture more than the soft serve that you get from Vitamix or Cuisinart or Yonanas, because you generally have to add some kind of a liquid. Let's see.
Okay, here we go. Here is the completed chili for today.
Yeah, that 5-minute chili only took an hour. No, just kidding.
I hope you can see it okay as I spill it all over my computer.
Yeah, that looks like an outstanding, delicious, hearty meal. Even if it didn't have the pineapple for the young lady that was allergic, I think it would be delicious.
I do too. I would try it without the pineapple before adding in anything else, if you don't like pineapple.
And I love that. That's an 8-quart Instant Pot that you're using, right?
I don't know if it's 8 or 10.
Oh, it might be a 10. 10's even better.
Be.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I had gotten the 10, but the 8 works really well. Yeah, that does look extra big, or maybe you're just extra small.
No, it was a Christmas gift, and I think it's a 10, although I've looked on the unit itself to try to find that information, and I don't see it. So I think it's a 10, though.
Outstanding. Well, this dish looks like a 10. Thank you so much, Cyd, for the delicious food and the corny jokes.
You are welcome. Cornbread and corny jokes. You get it all right here.
Sounds like a winner to me. Thank you so much, Cyd. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you, Chef AJ. Take care.
Well, thank you. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when I have some guests that have never been on the show. I'll be meeting them for the very first time. One of the guests is named Heather. What's her last name? Heather Heath. And she is the founder of the only, I believe, vegan culinary school in Las Vegas. And her main chef, whose name is Nico Munoz, is going to be on. He's going to be making something called Spooky October Gnocchi. I think I pronounced that right, made from purple yam and creamy butternut squash and carrot sauce. So please don't miss tomorrow's show. Take care.